What's up? Welcome to Legion of Super Stuff. I am your host, Doug Mellard. This is the place where we discuss all things superheroes. And this time, we're going to talk about something I'm kind of passionate about. That's right. I'm going to lay out my top 10 least favorite moments of Madame Web, which was a list that was difficult to whittle down. Okay? I had to let out a sigh to begin. Madame Web is special. Like, it's a new level of bad in the superhero genre, and I can do pretty incredible mental gymnastics to like any superhero film. But this one was hard to find bright spots. I mean, I like Adam Scott. There we go. I mean, why did they even make this movie? As a kid, when Madame Web would appear on the animated series, I'd be like, nope. And, although looking back as an adult, the character is actually pretty fascinating, but it really shouldn't be the center of attention in any film. And it could be done in a fun and complex way. It's a great character to explore, but this wasn't done in a fun or complex way. I had so many issues with this film that it was hard to concentrate, okay? Like, something crazy would happen and I would be like, wait, what? But then the film would roll right on the next crazy moment, and I didn't even have time to process the last mess before a new mess was created right in front of me. It was like, slow down, one issue at a time, okay? Even the actors seemed to distance themselves from the whole product when they were doing press as the film was about to be released. There was a lot of controversy around that. Now, if you haven't seen it, the film is about, you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's just dive in to the top 10 moments or parts or things about Madame Web that I don't like. All right, here's the top 10, starting with number 10. And this is real nitpicky, but towards the beginning, there's a part where Dakota Johnson, Madame Web herself, lays out a saucer of milk for a cat and says, us strays need to stick together. Now, that's such a cliche thing that's just in film and TV. Putting milk out for cats. Cats get very sick with milk. Did you know that? Yeah, that's it's not good for them. So that's just a thing that we saw in cartoons, and people will still put it into things like this. But it's a detail that drives me crazy. I know that's really silly. Number 9. Any stretch of a real tie to Spider-Man in any way. I know it's like in the Sony Spider-Verse, but just don't try to force any Peter Parker or Spider-Man lore onto the beloved character, okay, from this. In this film, we see that the origins of Spider-Man's suit come from something in the movie. And it's just like, don't taint something cool with something that's so horrible. And then, of course, having Ben Parker in there and the birth of Peter at the end. Get out of here. Come on. Just don't do it. All right. Number 8, the flashbacks. There's a lot of flashbacks in the film. They start early on after Cassie has an incident, which starts to launch her powers. We begin to have these flashbacks, and it's showing us that she can predict the future. But what it's actually doing is making us watch more of the film. And not just that, more of this bad film that we've already seen. So it's just adding to the torture, okay? And at some points, it was honestly a little confusing and weird, and it didn't really add a lot. I get what they were going for, but it just added to the runtime. At number 7, the bad guy's dubbed voice. That's right. Why? The main villain, Ezekiel Sims, is played by Tahar Rahim, who is a French native that is fluent in English and has done other films where he speaks English fine, but for whatever reason, they have this whole dubbed ADR accent that they give to him with this accent that you can't even nail down. I don't even know what they're going for. And it's very distracting, and it's all over the place. There were times where I was starting to feel crazy because I was like, wait, I thought he had an accent earlier, but now he seems kind of normal. Now he seems French, and now it's as crazy as the entire film. At number 6, Cassie tells 3 young women to get off a train and come with her, and they just follow suit immediately. They just immediately trust this woman. There's a little bickering back and forth, but for the most part, they just roll with it. They're like, hey, sure, crazy lady, I'll follow you. They go from being worried she's abducting them in a millisecond to totally accepting following her lead. Also, they just accept the weird Spider-Man villain really quickly. Like, they just see this guy flying around everywhere, running upside down. They're like, yep, there's evil Spider-Man. Here he comes to kill us. They just act like it's, it happened yesterday as well. And then evil Spider-Man quickly takes out like a half dozen cops, but can't get these this small group. I don't understand. It's weird. It's a lot of weird logic you have to dance around in this film. At number 5, Madam Web herself drives a stolen ambulance through a concrete wall from like 3 stories up into the villain and lands and is totally fine. And not just that, she grabs the girl she's trying to rescue and is like getting the ambulance, and they jump back in, and it is good to go once again. The ambulance is drivable, and there's no sign of concussion on her. She's not hurting, and look, I've been in an accident. You know, initially there can be a lot of adrenaline, but pretty quickly you're going to feel some pain. She jumping 3 stories through a concrete wall, you're not going to feel good. That's all I'm saying. Look, I know this is a film that involves superpowers, but come on, let's ground it in some reality somewhere. Number 4, all the bad foreshadowing. Like, there's a giant neon S at the beginning where you're like, well, we know that's going to come into play as she's sitting there drowning. It's like, there's just stuff that really knocks you over the head with like, remember this part? And that kind of stuff drives me crazy. There's also a CPR scene, which you quickly realize is foreshadowing, and it goes on for a while. We're just watching multiple people learn CPR for a while. There's a lot of CPR in this film, and honestly, it's it's an important thing. We should all know it, and be trained in it. It's a good thing for everyone on Earth to know. But as a scene that's thrown around a bunch, it's pretty boring, you know. At number 3, the whole forest diner scene. I mean, come on. Quickly after the subway station in which Cassie finds the 3 young female leads, she takes them into the New York City forest. And look, I know there are trees in the state of New York, but it's just it makes it feel like they get in the car and 5 minutes later they're in a forest that feels like just on the edge of New York City. And soon after that, she gets them together. She gets them out of the car, and she's like, look, this has all been crazy, but thanks for coming with me to this forest, even though you don't know who I am. You don't know who that crazy guy was. For all you know, we could be partners, but I'm going to get out of here for a few hours. I need to check on some stuff about all this. And then she just leaves the people she's trying to protect alone in the woods, and they're all just fine with it. What? That drove me crazy, like every layer of that. She's like, I must protect you at all costs. Anyway, here's the middle of a forest. Just good luck. You don't have any food or water, and you don't know who I am or if I'll be back, and you don't know where you are. See you later. Also, quickly after they're waiting around they decide, screw that. Let's go to that diner we saw on the way. How did they, with everything going on, you remembered exactly how to get to the diner from the middle of the woods? When you're in a forest, you don't know. Shit is confused. You don't know how to get back. You have to know the trails like by the back of your hand. I guarantee you they did not. Also, in the diner, there's a guy that puts in a phone call to alert the authorities, and he's reading a paper about these women being missing. But that just occurred a couple hours. Is there, maybe I just didn't know, is there a nightly edition of the newspaper with that story? Are there 2 newspapers a day? It just seemed weird that within a couple hours that was a story in a newspaper. And then there's a lot of happenstance in this whole film. It drove me crazy. And then Dakota Johnson immediately finds the diner after going back to look for him, which also crazy that she's like, where are they? Probably in the diner that's on the edge of the forest, on the edge of New York City. It's gotta be. And when she finds them, they're dancing on a table, which just I didn't love. And then she drives the cab through the diner, just assuming everyone would be okay. I mean, I get that she has like this new superpower, but at that point, she definitely doesn't know how to harness it. I don't think she knew if she was gonna hit somebody or not. I think she just took that chance. She could have killed the girls. It's crazy. And at number 2, This is a superhero film, right? But we barely see any of the superhero costumes. That's a pretty big staple in most superhero films. Like we see him briefly in a flashback or two, and then at the very end, we get the suits. It's like the moment people have been waiting for, which usually is a moment that's like, I don't know, 30 minutes in, maybe 45. You'll see the costume. But the real moment where we really get a good look at him, it's at the very last scene. People are like, yeah, I can finally get excited, and it's over. And it's also, you're not going to get excited because you just sat through an hour and a half of not fun stuff. The whole last scene is just total garbage. It's so bad. Like, she's blinded in the second to last scene, and I feel like they almost forgot, and they're like, oh God, we got to fork that in. She's got to be blind for this last scene where we really introduce her as Madam Web. And she has a line where she says, somebody asks her how she's doing, and she says, I can see better than I ever have. It's just all way too dramatic. And as I said, we see the suits for the first time, and it's way too late. All right, my number one problem with the film Madam Web, and this is combining a lot of things into one, but the whole jungle scene, all of it, every part of it, it's just crazy. She already left the people she's trying to protect alone in the middle of the forest. And then a little bit later, it felt like the writers or somebody once again was like, hey, how do we deal with all these things we got to figure out? And they're like, well, she'll just leave him again. So she leaves him with Ben Parker a second time to then go to Peru to figure stuff out. She said she'll be gone a week. The trip that she takes would take at least a month to set up. Like, to charter this trip, it would be a lot of research to figure out what she's doing. And she doesn't know what she's doing. It would take a day or two to even get to where she needs to start looking for the information she's going for in the Peruvian jungle. There's a flight to a bus ride to a hike, then presumably a hike back to a bus, back to a flight. There's no guide, by the way, until a guy just randomly appears in the jungle and says he's been waiting for her because he told her mom he would be there. Right there for decades, it's, again, a lot of happenstance. And then she immediately finds what she's looking for. That was convenient. A lot of convenience. Pretty immediately after this, her Peruvian guide shows her powers and what she's capable of, and she's just kind of like, cool, and then she moves on. But there's no training for anything. She's just like, got it, thanks. I know what I need to do now. Also, I don't think it was ever explained. Her mother died in a cave in Peru where she was born, but how did she get to America and not know about any of this? Like, where did Cassie go from the cave? Did I miss that? Maybe I did. I've seen it a couple times, but again, a lot of times I'd be thinking about something that just happened when the story was already moving on. That's it for the top 10. Whew! As you can see, I was not a fan of the film, and it's probably for the best that they are taking a step back from the Sony Spider-Verse as far as Spidey's enemies are concerned. I never really got that to begin with. Like, Venom seems to have worked out okay for the most part, but these others have just been duds. Absolute duds. It's just strange to make these movies that get worse and worse, and they're seemingly not learning anything from the previous bombs. Like, I think Kraven was maybe already too far in development with Madam Web being rolled out, but I don't know. It just seems, pretty dicey and weird. And I just never understood why they would try to make this universe without Spider-Man in it. The best part of this whole universe is Spider-Man himself. And I think they were like, there's a chance, maybe someday, or we'll just tease everyone in the audience forever that maybe he'll appear. And we know he's never going to. It would be beneath Tom Holland's Spider-Man, honestly, to be in these films. That's it for me talking about why I did not like Madam Web. What were your thoughts? Let me know. And thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share with a friend. See you next time.